Hello, welcome back to our channel, Thrifty Day. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create the spine for your Magic Memory book. It's pretty simple, so I'll start with the supplies you need. First of all, you need a book. I'm using this Pinocchio Little Golden book. In the previous episode, I showed you how to cleanly remove the pages, so you don't need the pages just yet, so set them aside. So now you are just left with the actual cover of the book. You'll also need a piece of chipboard to act as the spine, 2 pieces of fabric, some scissors, some Mod Podge. I use matte, and a foam brush. And I also use a damp washcloth to help clean up the edges and to keep my hands not sticky. And I also use parchment paper once we get started with the Mod Podge. So you can set some of these things aside because right now what we're going to work with is the actual book cover. Since you already cleanly removed your pages, all we need to do is separate the actual cover that we're going to use from the gold spine, which is pretty simple because you can see that since the book has been used, the pages have been removed. You can see that there's lines right there. You're just going to want to use scissors or an X-Acto knife or a razor blade to cut right along that line. And so you are just left with that. First part of the book. Now I'm going to cut the back off. It's very simple. It doesn't even really need to be perfect because it's all going to be covered with fabric. So it doesn't matter if it looks perfect right now. This beautiful iconic gold piece is officially trash though. Put that away. So now that you are left with the front and back cover of your book, you're going to get a piece of chipboard. I like the width to be about 2.5 inches, and since I'm using a little golden book, the height and the length rather is 8 inches. But if you have a smaller book, you obviously just cut your chipboard smaller. If you have a bigger book, you keep it longer. So it's pretty simple, 2.5, and then you just measure so it's the exact height of your covers. So you have your chipboard. The other thing you will need is a piece of fabric that complements your book cover. I used stars because When You Wish Upon a Star is so iconic for Pinocchio. You want this piece of fabric, like I said, you are going to need 2. You want this piece of fabric to be roughly 4 to 4.5 inches to accommodate bending and the whole spine. So just cut 2 pieces. I like to use a cute little rickrack trim because I think it looks pretty and it helps prevent fraying. So you want them to be both the same size. It doesn't matter that it's longer because you're going to trim that off after anyway. So let's get started. I'm going to take one of my pieces of parchment paper. Make sure your covers are the right way. It would be such a bummer to get started. So cover, cover. Grab your fabric and just lay it right on down there. And I always start with my chipboard. I put glue right on top of my chipboard. It doesn't need to look pretty because you're not even going to see it. So it doesn't matter really what it looks like. Just get it all on there so it's evenly spread so that it will stick. So put it right on there, right in the center. And you can see there's glue everywhere. That's okay. Don't worry about it. You can wipe off your hands on your washcloth. And now I start with the front cover. I just put glue right on there. Like I said, doesn't need to be perfect. You're going to fix it all in a minute. And as you can see, I leave a small amount of space so that when you're opening and closing your book, it accommodates that. So make sure you leave a tiny little bit there. I mean, maybe 1/4 inch. And now we're going to do the other side. I guess I could have taken that sticker off, but oh well. It's fine. So I leave space so that my book will open and close appropriately. There we go. So it's all glued on. Now the most important part is you're going to flip it over. And right now it's looking all kind of gooky, but that's okay. You just put Mod Podge right over it and it will dry clear. I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot see the print of my fabric. Don't worry, it will dry clear. and you will have no idea that it looked like this at one point. I always make sure that those rickrack edges are sealed really nicely. Just go all the way over, and this is the part where it gets a little bit messy. I use my whole hand just to smooth it down. Smooth, I'm moving my paper. Smooth it down, smooth it all on down. This will all dry clear, don't worry. And see how it got on the book a little bit? I use my washcloth and I just wipe it down. Wipe it right down. And this one is done. You need to wait about 30 minutes is what it takes to dry. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to set this aside so I can show you how I finish, because I have one that is already dried. See, it dries completely clear. And this is why you left spaces there for your fabric, so that it can bend easily. So now once it's totally dry, you do the other side. And so you get your piece of fabric, the second piece of fabric that you had reserved and already cut, and you do the exact same thing but on the back. So let's do that. Like I said, this doesn't look pretty, but you want to use a good amount of Mod Podge because you really want these to last forever. You don't want them falling apart. I know right now this looks super messy, but don't worry, it dries completely clear. You won't even notice it looks this way. So you get your fabric that is pre-cut and you just kind of line them up. See, that's all it takes. And then you go over it with more Mod Podge. Mod Podge is very forgiving. It wipes off pretty quickly as long as you get to it in time. It dries extremely clear. It's one of my favorite mediums to work with because, like I said, it is forgiving. And I usually have ideas in my head, and it's nice to work with a medium that you have time to work with. It doesn't dry so quickly that you can't remove things and repurpose and work with your mistakes. So I'm using my hand to just kind of smooth it all down. And then I'm going to get my washcloth and I'm going to clean up those edges because I don't want a bunch of glossy goop on the side of my book when you open it. So again, you're going to set this aside and let it dry. I have one that is already completely done and dried. And as you can see, it dries totally clear. You can't even see. And it's nice and hard, which is great because you have a good sturdy surface because you're going to be sewing pages into here eventually. So now what you need to do is just cut off this trim. You obviously don't need that overhanging. So you get your scissors again and you very carefully just go down the edge and cut that excess fabric off because you just don't need it. And it goes really quickly because it's kind of hard from where you put the Mod Podge on. So I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just following the edge of the book and I'm cutting it right off. There you go. And then you'll see you have your book and it is perfectly trimmed and it looks great. One extra step you can do is sometimes I dip my finger in just to seal those edges and make them look really clean. I put a little bit just right on the top just to really seal it in, make sure there's no, like, see, that's like a little string. You don't want to see that. But just so they're sealed just extra tight. Wipe my hands off. But this is it. You're done. Your cover is complete. Those little top ends will dry very quickly. And you have a nice sturdy surface, a whole repurposed book that very soon you will take your pages and they will go right inside. I will show you in my next YouTube upload how we use these same pages that just came out of your book, and we will create a brand new book to sew right into this very sturdy spine. So I hope this helps. I hope that you are at home creating your books and you will be ready for the next upload. That one will be a little bit more complicated because we will be creating pages to sew into the spine, but I will walk you through it and I promise you, you can do it. So thanks so much for watching. Have a really great night. Stay creative.